for humoring me on the weather conversations. I just think it's like being in a virtual job, you know what I mean? I love being able to kind of visit places that I've never been. So thank you all for that. But I guess to be superficial or whatever, I'd love to call this meeting to order. Just taking a look at our agenda with some previous business, I see first things first, Rowan has some survey instrument security updates related to other Every Voice states, if you'd like to get us started with that.
Sure. So the other states, when we've met with the other states and have been talking with them, they have been telling us that the surveys have gone, when they have had to go through IRBs, have gone through really easily. Mostly, it's usually exempt. One of the things that we need to think about, or I think one of the decisions we've already made is that we're going to just stick to 18 and over, because it's much more complicated if we're using younger students. And then in terms of managing the data, a lot of the states are getting the raw data from the surveys directly to them. So the state is managing the data. I'm kind of glad that I don't have to do that, but that does mean that all 61 institutions or whatever are going to have to figure out how to do that on their own. So it does look like the information is protected by FOIA or protected from FOIA, which is one of the things I was worried about. But because the survey data is not linked to the student account, it's not clear that it would be covered by FERPA. And I don't know if any of you who work in the colleges would have any insight on that.
FERPA is just educational record.
Right.
And so if that wouldn't be considered a part of an educational record. So we wouldn't need FERPA.
Yeah. So but that also means the protections of FERPA don't apply to this data. So that's just something to keep in mind. We've had one meeting with our R&D folks at HEC and talking mostly about trying to get Qualtrics and getting the survey into Qualtrics and possibly SurveyMonkey as well. They promised me that we would have a meeting with the head of our IT to give me some information that we can use when we're talking about data security and some of the things that people will need to keep in mind. So that'll be part of my sense is that'll be part of the implementation plan is here are the guidelines. These are the things that you'll need to do to the minimum considerations, not how to do data security, but here are some considerations for you to, keep in mind as you're processing your data. Oops. Sorry. And I think that's about it. Kevin, can you think of anything? Or Kevin is not feeling real well today, but just Kevin, is there anything else that you can think of that I should add?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
Okay. Are there any questions or anything that you all want me to ask the data people when I do get to meet with them?
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm honestly really eager to hear what they have to say on the data security piece. I know that has just been an outstanding question for me. So that'll be great. I guess just to move on to the next piece on IRB related things, curious if Jimmy or Jennifer, if either of you have any updates on just the IRB side of things.
Jimmy, I think it was held over from a number of meetings that you were going to talk to U of O IRB at some point, and I'm not sure if that's been superseded at some point, but I've kept it on the agenda.
Yeah, I certainly can. We've been busy over here with the reorg. So now that we're kind of settled, I can re-engage in the conversation with the vice president for research and kind of figure out again what support we can provide. And if I recall, the question was guidance from U of O's IRB. Was that where we were? Or were we also asking if if I recall, UO could serve as the IRB for schools that don't have an IRB. Were those the two questions that we were asking?
That sounds right to me. I think one of the considerations was that if U of O's IRB was able to say, yes, we don't have a problem with the survey, we can move forward with it, that would make it a lot easier for other colleges and institutions to feel confident in doing so as well.
Sure. Great. Well, I don't have any updates, but I can certainly, now that we are a little still, I can certainly reach out to the IRB and ask for coffee and see if we can get to a good place. And because I'm a little bit behind on this committee, do we have an instrument yet? Or is that still drafted, or is that still being in draft?
It's in draft form, and there is a survey writing committee meeting this Friday. I think we will have something that can move forward as a draft. I'm certain there will be lots of changes and lots of tweaks. I cut it down from 153 questions to 105, which is still way too many, but I think we're in pretty good shape. It's been reviewed quite a few times. The next steps will be the survey writing committee will look at it again on Friday. It will go out to the language subcommittee next week, and so that they can take a look at the language and see if there's any corrections that they would like to see made. And then at our meeting on the 24th, we'll present it to the full council for feedback. And then after that, we'll be ready to go. So Jimmy, after the 24th, we will have a document that you could share with the IRB.
Okay, that's great. My other question is, do we have an identified PI?
We don't have a PI at the state level.
Okay.
And each institution is going to have its own PI because each institution collects and holds and owns its own data.
Okay. So, okay, that's good to know.
Can I just do a quick acronym check? What is PI?
Sorry.
That's a principal investigator, I believe, is the acronym.
Yeah, the principal investigator would be the person who, if you were submitting this to your college, for example, if you were doing research as a student and collecting this data, you would be the PI because you would be the responsible party for managing the data. And so the IRB, you would ask the IRB's permission to move forward, and they would either say yes or no, or tell you what you needed to do to make it okay.
Got it. There are just too many acronyms in all of our respective fields, but thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And I'm just wondering if strategy-wise, the other schools, whoever they identify, like if they don't have an IRB, could be listed as the supplemental investigators. I forget what they call, but not the primary ones, but the ones who can also administer the survey, be a part of the data collection. I'm just curious if they ask about who else is administering the survey, they might be curious about, like, again, giving not permission, but knowing for whom they are suggesting that this is exempt for.
Yeah, I think they would be doing it, and then we could say, look, see, UO said it was okay, and then show that to them rather than have them be like
Unofficial. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So we're just at this point, I think that shifts my understanding a bit, but like at this point, this is like an informal stamp of approval because UO would go through the process and likely approve it as exempt. Got it.
Yes.
Okay, that's much easier. Thank you.
No, thank you for taking that on, and sorry for putting you on the spot when things have been absolutely nuts. But thank you for looking into that. I also noticed, Justin, you had raised your hand. I don't know if you wanted to jump in really quick.
No, it was back when we were trying to specify why the U of O IRB, but I think Rowan answered and covered it, so I just deferred.
Sweet, thank you. I guess, Jennifer, do you have anything to add just on the IRB front?
No, I think we were really hoping that U of O would have them because we have a very ad hoc at IRB here at Oregon Tech as well. So we're trying to figure out how we're gonna also work IRB here.
Not a problem. Great. Well, with that being said, just taking a look back at the agenda, first things first, I think whoever made the updated edits by actually making phase 2 a real phase in our outreach plan, thank you for doing that. It looks great. I wonder if we maybe, in the vein of just staying on top of our general implementation toolkit and pilot messaging and those types of things, if we maybe want to look at that phase 2 and kind of evaluate within that what our subcommittee could take on. I would definitely love y'all's feedback on that. And then I think from there, that might kind of inform how much of our pilot messaging and that kind of thing we could tackle today. Is it helpful to drop a link or share screen? Oh, Rowan, you're muted. I'm sorry.
I just dropped a link in the chat, so you should have access to the most recent version of the outreach plan.
Thank you. So yeah, I guess just as folks are pulling that up, it seems like the big tasks, determining the sample size of the pilot and including target numbers of students from each of the 3 types of institutions, doing the outreach to those interested parties with the invitation, obviously that would be us, and then 3, actually set up the survey. I think from there, let's see, seeking recommendations from HEC research and data for a second platform. And then from there, arranging the survey, determining the survey window, and then let's see, user experience questionnaire for feedback, and then again, just more outreach. So I guess just doing a high level look at that to be really specific, right? I think we have to make the emails, but within that, what else I guess feels like we can jump in on?
Oh, sorry, I just remembered. I forgot to send you a list of people to pilot with. I have 3 students.
That's awesome.
And then I think I have some more
Mm.
from other institutions. But how many students would we want for a sample? Sorry for the pilot, that I'm off on a little bit of a tangent, but
I would say as many as we can get. I don't know that there's a just because I don't think we're going to get overwhelmed with responses. I think
right.
Yeah, the more feedback I'd love to see 100 students statewide, and I think that's a lot. So
Okay, no, that's
yeah.
a good goal, right? I
Yeah.
can work on that. That's something I can, the regional coordinators and I can work on getting us some people maybe together, right? We have lots of student workers and things that would
Mhm.
probably be interested.
Yeah, we have some students in our prevention, like our sexual violence prevention program, that might be really good to take the survey. At the point at which we're doing this pilot, do we feel like there's space for feedback on the survey, or is it just see how the survey works, or is it give us feedback as a student about how the survey feels, etc.? Where will we be in the pilot?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
question, Jimmy.
I'd love to see survivors, by the way, taking this. So if we can get the word out, Lena, if you can, I know that you and Carly can probably help with that. That's okay. Yeah, there's a campus advocate cohort meeting. That would be awesome. Survivors at different points in their so for some survivors, this might be a lot. For other, my dog's going to bark in a minute. For other survivors, they are at a point in their healing journey where doing things like responding to this kind of survey and giving feedback on it, knowing that they're going to be helping other survivors, is really, really helpful. So I'm not worried about that. I think the advocates would be really great at identifying people who might be willing to help out. And for this, I think we're looking overall at the user experience. So we want to know technically, how does it function? Were you able to use it on your phone? And how long did it take you? Were any of the questions confusing? And then I think also, what emotionally did it feel like to take this survey? Did it feel like it was too much? Did you feel like the language that we were using was caring and inclusive and thoughtful? Were there things that you would like to see changed? So yeah, so those three those, the technical aspects, what's it like to take the survey, and then
Any
physically and then emotionally as well.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I think with that context, I do think we will get some students from UO who would participate in a pilot. And so I don't know if there's central messaging for what we're looking for in terms of feedback, but that could be helpful in my recruitment of students to take it. But I think we could totally get some folks from UO.
So I think developing the messaging for the pilot is kind of one of the tasks that this committee has. So thinking about what kinds of messages do we want to use? I think, providing some documents that we could send to the Title IX coordinators or the campus advocates that said, here's what we're doing with the pilot, and this is information we'd love for you to share with your campus contacts.
That's great. So I guess just a couple quick questions looking at this. There's like the actual, looking at phase 2 of the pilot, there's the actual infrastructural setup, getting the survey created, getting all of those things set up. And then there's making sure folks are prepared. Obviously that second group is us, right? So I think within that, then there are a couple of other things that I just would love to run by to see if this is something that is our responsibility or not. That would be like the user experience questionnaire. I could anticipate that we don't create that, but maybe we review it. Similarly with like identifying sample size and things like that. Does that feel like something we need to do? Does that feel like more of the survey writing, those types of folks?
So there's hypothetically data people at HEC that I might be able to run this past, but I'm just wondering, not to put you on the spot, Justin and Jennifer and Jimmy, but because you do work in the institutions, I'm wondering what you think, if you have any ideas about how we can do things like, I think determining the sample size of the pilot is just whatever we get, but do you feel like you could review the survey before it goes out? Do you feel like you could prepare the materials, come up with some messaging that would resonate with folks on your community about taking the pilot?
I think that if we had like some general language that we could then like customize to our campus, right? Like this is what the HEC wants, right? The purpose of the HEC distributing the survey on our campus is this, right? But then also that would give us some space to be like, Oregon Tech, for me, I'd be able to like, be like Oregon Tech is now given an opportunity to shape this survey, right? And try to get some of my students involved that way, like be able to make it more specific to them. So I think having just like some general that we can customize would be good. As far as, what I send out to people on my campus looking for people willing to take that pilot. But I also think that it would be useful if I could share something like that with the other regional coordinators, right? In that meeting, then they could all just take that same general language and then put it into their own personalized campus email. I think that would be a good start for us just to think of some like general, this is the objectives or the goal of distributing this, right?
So I think I have a slightly different perspective in that I view the pilot of the survey about improving the quality of the instrument and the experience of the instrument. And so to me, I would rather have that be with a more controlled audience, insofar as I really appreciate the suggestion of students who are working in the area, because we can better explain the purpose of this instrument. What I wouldn't want us to do is to end up administering the instrument to the general population and then doing it again, because you run a higher risk of, what are we using this for? What's the implication of? So I'm not really concerned as much about, or I think it's not really about language inviting people to the instrument at this point. The language around the pilot is, hey, we're going to do this survey under the HEC next year. We really like this small group to try out the instrument, go through it honestly and earnestly, but know that this is still a developing product. And so it's a much more personalized, smaller group of individuals. But we don't need to hit a sample size to do anything statistically valid. That's not the purpose, in my mind, of doing this pilot survey. It really is about, does it work? How does it function? What did you think when you read the descriptions in the survey itself?
Yeah, this should be definitely more targeted kind of audience.
So that would be the prevention folks, maybe folks in gender resource centers, thinking about where people might have more expertise to be able to evaluate this. Okay, excellent, great. Okay, so that helps with the messaging to the schools about what we're asking them for.
Yeah. And this is, I know this is a stretch because I know we are resource limited on this committee, but is there like an incentive we can provide like folks who engage in the pilot? So I know we could probably do that on the campus side of things, but that also might be lopsided in terms of the feedback that you get. I'm wondering like if there's an opportunity for like one or two gift cards or something that like if you engage and give good feedback, you'd be entered in for something. Um, you know, just curious. Again, this we don't have to answer the question now, but I could imagine that that might also like give a little bit of incentive to folks who are already in the work, doing the work, survivor, like a little bit of an incentive to get it done, rather than just like care and compassion for the other students taking the survey. Which I think will be a good motivator, but
I will ask.
That's great. And it just makes me wonder, like, for the folks who work on campuses, are you already getting questions from your colleagues about this? And like, what are those questions? No? Okay. I mean, can you anticipate like what folks might be worried about or what any potential pain points with this might be, particularly with the pilot?
like I said, I think just clarity on what it is, clarification that it's not the official survey is going to be really helpful. Um, selected participation, so not to broadcast it widely, but like if there's some guidance on who we give the survey to. Um, but I think people will push back on timing regardless. I think like we don't have time to do this, or this is a bad time for us. Like, how are we going to recruit people? But I think those are all things we can problem solve on campus. But those would be, I think, the things I could identify right away. And again, my timeline coordinator is pretty disengaged, I would say, from this process right now. So I'm trying to pull her in. And so I'll get more feedback from her once we chat.
That's really helpful. I guess I wasn't really thinking about the timing component of it. That is a great thing for us to just kind of monitor. Also, just to say, right, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we're coming up on that deadline. So that might be something. I don't want to use the word leverage, but I don't know what else to say with that.
Well, it might make more meaning for students in some way, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yes, I,
timeliness. Yeah.
yes. And so I think that that could actually be something that I know we do a lot of things on my campus, right? So it could be a way that I sort of recruit some people to do that as well.
I could also see, this is pie in the sky. I guess I don't know how much of a pie in the sky it is, but like a letter written by the governor about like the importance of this, getting this right, caring for the campuses, getting a sense of, just something that like gives some initial like charge to the people taking the pilot. Could be interesting. It doesn't have to be the governor. It could be someone else. Could be the director of heck, I don't know, somebody, but I think someone with name recognition to give, I think, the pilot a little bit of oomph. And again, that could just be a component of it, because I imagine the Title IX coordinators or whoever's coordinating the survey might also include some of the language that we give them. But I just wonder if that kind of support would be beneficial in getting some really good feedback, but also showing the importance of the survey.
I had a similar thought, but about when we actually implement the survey, right? If the governor were to release something that all institutions would be doing this, that might.
I will ask. Do students know who the heck is? Yeah.
Nope.
No, they don't know the heck, other than our student leaders. They
Yeah,
wouldn't know.
yeah.
I would say if it isn't ASOIT here, they probably don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to get us a figurehead with statewide recognition. That would be great. Can I ask you all what I think? So one of the things I'm just so you know, I'm putting together some summaries of best practices, looking at the literature on implementation and how to get the best response rate, those kinds of things that we're charged with doing as well. And one of the things that's come up repeatedly is the idea of branding the survey. So although it's coming from each individual institution, making it clear by a cohesive look that it is a state of Oregon survey and not a OIT or Lynn Benton survey. So having one kind of I guess a look, a branding that we could use, color schemes, fonts, and things like that could be personalized. So what I'm thinking is putting together like a Canva poster that can be personalized by each campus with its own contact information and things like that. But it would look the same, and it would have that message that we are participating in this survey just like all the other students in Oregon, and this is why it's important. How do folks feel about that? Would that go well on your campuses, or would that not be seen as beneficial?
I think my students that would actually encourage them to participate, right? If it was they knew it was statewide initiative instead of like just the Title IX coordinators asking us to do something again, because I know I've been training like crazy and stuff on campus, and so I think they're over me. Because only 4 showed up for training today. Anyways, so um so I think having like something like that would say that, this is a statewide initiative, that would be good. I also think having like a QR code generated for the survey so that we could have that on the posters so that students you don't have to go to your student email and get the email that was sent to you that had the link to the thing. We could literally post it on our app. We could put the QR code, right? If it's all on posters, we could put it all over campus. I just think that might help to increase response rates if it was something as simple as scanning it on their phone to get it rather than digging through their email. Because I know my students don't check their emails regularly and things get buried and right, or they read it and then it's open and so they never, right, they don't see it again because it's an open email. So a QR code would be helpful.
I guess just to say, I love the idea of consistency across branding. I have found with just some of our other implementation stuff that the more we can create templates, the better. So it's actually really validating to hear from y'all that that is actually really helpful. Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah, nothing else to add. Actually, I do remember what I was going to say. I can also imagine that having us create kind of the floor for messaging and things like that will be really helpful for, the student interns in offices that may be tasked with formatting this poster. That information is already there for them. And guess what? They might learn a thing or two while they're putting it together, right?
Lena loves a Canva project, so see?
I do. Yeah, I'm happy to work on that. I'm actually working on a couple other projects along those lines, so I'm in the Canva template mode right now.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So, and not to cut this conversation short by any means, but I feel like we're in a pretty good place regarding survey pilot / messaging. I think just one thing to say out loud, I think I'm still trying to figure out what are responsibilities of our committee to like accomplish in these calls versus what are things that heck can accomplish. So just to ask super clearly, like, do we need to be working on the copy of this? Rowan, is this something that you would tackle in terms of putting together initial fact sheets and things like that? Yeah, how do we want to actualize this messaging?
If you direct me to, I am happy to take a first pass at the messaging and get that out to you. I think one thing, anything that goes out, like the messaging, and Lena, I wrote down I will connect with you. Thank you so much for offering to do that because graphics are hard. We do need to run stuff through our communications person if it's going to go out through HEC. So just so you know that there'll be that kind of oversight there as well. But yeah, I'm happy to take a first pass at some drafts. It helps me if you give me a deadline. And then that gives me something to work toward. So when would you like to see some so I think that the products that I'm hearing that we need the marketing materials for the survey. We need the introduction to the pilot, or the marketing for the pilot, the introduction for the pilot. One other thing that still is kind of hanging that we haven't talked about is putting together a packet for the campuses to help them figure out how to start preparing for the survey. So just, here are some people who should be on your team, and this is the kinds of timelines that you might want to think about. And I think we're going to need to be clear in that messaging, all of our messaging too, that the state is not being affected by changes at the federal level. Because I know that I've already heard some questions from people like, do we still have to do this since things are different now?
Yeah, my very first Title IX training of this since this term. When we came back, I did one on like it was like the 22nd or 24th, something like that. I did a Title IX training, and the very first comment was, "Is this even legal now?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yes, this is totally legal." But wow, people are so confused. People are just, it's so uncertain. People don't know. So I think that's a good point. We do need to make sure that we are clear that the state has its own set of rules and those don't change.
Mm-hmm.
And our definition doesn't change. That was the thing that,
Mm-hmm.
right, people got really caught up on when we got to the definitions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that's the feds are the floor. And then we get to build on top of that.
Yeah, well, also just to say too, right, with potential attacks on the Department of Education, we would lose things like Clery Act and a lot of the other research that comes from that. So yeah, better now is literally the perfect time for us to be doing this. And I, not to, make things too 501c4, but again, like there's an opportunity for some messaging there, right? Of there is literally not a better time for us to be collecting this first of its kind data for the state of Oregon. And we're doing the hard part for all of the other states that look to places like Oregon when they're trying to figure out what to do. We're figuring it out for them so that way we can create that blueprint. And I wonder if that's something we can think about with the pilot as well, is we're not just doing the pilot for Oregon, we're doing the pilot for maybe Washington and California and Idaho, right? Like all of these other states that might pick something like this up. And I bet some students might feel really inspired by that like the contributions that they can create by giving feedback on this survey will exist forever in whatever form. Now I'm getting really fired up about this. Okay. So I'll just to say, Rowan, I think if you could take a first pass at some of those marketing materials, I wonder if maybe like the school people on this call would want to do like the patch coat on it just to make sure it feels ready to go before we get feedback, not approval, from the rest of the task force, if that sounds right.
So would you like to have an opportunity to provide feedback before the meeting on the 24th? Is that realistic for you? Because our next meeting wouldn't be until, towards the end of March, when we're hoping to get the pilot out by then.
Yeah, I think I could get feedback pulled together before then if is it realistic for you to get those communications drafted by then. But yeah, if I had just a couple of days, I could block out time to do that.
Same.
Yeah. That's far enough out that I think I can find some time in my calendar.
Okay. Can we, let's see, so I am taking vacation, which is really inconvenient, but so could we meet like the 20th, 21st, or 22nd? Just, I know, right? Just to sort of review. So I can, let's see, today is, oh my God, what day is it today? Is it really it's the 11th of February? Okay.
Yeah, the 11th.
I can have things for you to look at by the end of the day on Tuesday. I apologize. I've got something I've got to get done. But I've got to do some survey work before then. But if I got you stuff to look at, by the 19th, could we meet on the 20th or the 21st to talk about it? And then we'll just have a standing item on the agenda, so we won't have to worry about getting the materials put together for public law.
Yeah, that
would
probably work for me.
Absolutely.
I could meet on the 21st, but I won't be in the state on the 20th.
Yeah, I can do the 21st. I'm really flexible on the 21st, actually. So
thank you, Justin. Okay.
Justin can't do the 21st.
And Lena can't either. Okay. But can provide feedback. Okay.
Yeah, maybe if Justin
I-
couldn't be there, Justin could also provide some feedback and we could just discuss it on the 21st. Me, Jimmy, and Rowan.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I was just going to say I hate being the swing vote. I don't want to be the swing vote when my feedback is not that important on this piece. So that's perfect. That's perfect. Great. Well, Rowan, you were also reading my mind when you mentioned the one last piece of this, which is the packet for institutions, which is like, getting the campus ready for the survey, fact sheet, FAQs. To be honest, we have a lot of that stuff at Every Voice already. I am more than happy to just take a crack at that and start to put it together. And then have questions. Like, I truly, for y'all on campuses, like, I appreciate your questions more than anything, because I am so in the weeds on this, that I would love your FAQs. And I'm happy to like put a lot of that together. Do we have a deadline in mind for that?
We do. Let me see if I can find let's see if I have it open. Sorry, I'm looking for the timeline. Where did I put that?
I
Oh my
just
gosh.
see it spring 2025.
Yeah. So I think if we could get that by May.
Perfect.
Well, if we could get a draft started by May, because it also includes like the step-by-step instructions for administering the survey, blah, blah, blah. We won't have that ready for them until probably the end. Well, remember, my last day here is the 30th of June, so we'll have to have it by the end of May. So.
Can I just
That's
say
awesome.
on the campus packet, I think there's really two tracks, which Rowan kind of just highlighted. The delivery of the survey is one part, which is really more the institutional research offices. And if they have Qualtrics, it hopefully will be a plug and play. But for the non-Qualtrics campuses, which are many, they'll have to build it in something. So that's one path. The other path, which I think is probably where won't be the institutional research offices, is the delivery of the survey. That will be I think more likely the Title IX or those sorts of offices will be critically involved. And so the more that I think your group, the nonprofit, can provide some of that, the better. But it is really two different areas in my mind. One will be around the survey, sort of the technical administration piece, and the other will be the recruitment and the encouraging to participate, where we'll want things like flyers and so on.
Okay. So Justin, just to clarify, you're saying, okay, look, the schools are going to have to deal with two things. One is the technical aspect. How are we going to get the survey out there? Who's going to handle who's going to handle the data when it comes in? And the other is going to be the marketing, the survey, the Title IX institutions deciding, or Title IX institution or offices don't always have full trust of everybody. So sometimes coming out of like campus health or, some other, yeah.
Right.
So,
but they have different needs, because the
yes,
technical
yes.
piece is really that the system side of getting the survey out in some fashion in terms of where students can respond. And then the marketing piece, as you will point, it may be a number of different offices, but likely will be a different. And they'll need different pieces of information. We may be able to send it all as one, but particularly for the folks who won't have the Qualtrics option, which I suspect will be many in the community colleges, they will need more on that survey side, the technical administration side, than the others.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to check and see if we might have money to buy licenses for SurveyMonkey to offer to schools that don't have Qualtrics, because SurveyMonkey would be our data person's first choice for that. So there's that. I think the other thing is that the schools are going to need to do is, and this will not be on the technical side, but on the soft side, I guess, would be identify who their local resources are, who on campus, who's going to be in their list of resources, because when people are going through the survey, there will be a button they can push to get, resources. And so that's got to be personalized per campus. And making sure that their campus is informed. So making sure that the faculty and the staff know that the survey is coming in case they start getting questions about it too. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
I agree. And just to note on the SurveyMonkey piece, I believe in SurveyMonkey, you can create an instrument and then share it. So if that is true, if the HEC were able to create, or the data person you're speaking about could create the instrument, that would also help in two ways. One, for smaller institutions with no capacity, and two, to help have a consistent load, which, we mentioned that. But if it had that same vibe as the Qualtrics version going for everybody, that would make that much cleaner for the implementation.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for raising that, Justin. And I'm just thinking out loud, like there absolutely needs to be a technical guidance page, right? Like the title is literally "My school doesn't have Qualtrics, what do I do?" Right? And having all of that step by step, like, I'm a person who wears 18 hats and I work 90 million hours a week. How can I get this done effectively and quickly? That's a very great framing for it, I think.
And I'm always thinking about the secretary at the Bible college, who is the one who was
Right.
handling all of this, trying to make it as easy for them as possible.
Well, this is great. I feel like we've really accomplished so much, and it's just so exciting, like seeing this come to life. Yeah, I just am like full of so much joy and so much excitement. So I guess with that being said, just to review action steps, many fun IRB conversations to be had. Very looking forward to those updates. Rowan is going to take a first pass on the survey pilot messaging guides and the marketing guides, to which then Jennifer, Jimmy, and Justin will review and provide feedback before our full task force meeting. In the background, I will start to put together the implementation toolkit from some of the things we learned in other states. I can anticipate that I will have questions for you all at our next subcommittee meeting, if that sounds okay. And in addition, Lena is also going to have a fun Canva moment for some of the branding stuff. Does that sound right? Am I missing anything?
Good summary. You did a much better job of keeping track of that than I did.
Transcript notes. Gotta love them. Gotta love them. All right. Well, I guess with that being said, I think we're good for this afternoon. As always, reach out if EVC can be a resource in any way. And I'll see you all in 2 weeks at our full task force meeting. Oh, just kidding. Wait, Rowan, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Did we decide to meet on the 21st, and did we want to set a time for that?
Yes.
You're sorry.
Yes, sorry, we
Yes.
didn't set a time.
I'm free 9 to 11 that day.
I am also free during that time.
If you wanted me to join, I'm also free during that time, so that's funny.
Sure.
Let's do 9 o'clock.
All right.
Great. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Awesome. See you on the 21st. Take care.
See y'all.